Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Hundreds of people are feared dead in Myanmar and Thailand after a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck on Friday, toppling buildings across the two countries. The epicenter was 16 kilometers northwest of the city of Sagaing at a depth of 10 kilometers, sending strong tremors that were felt as far as southwest China and Thailand. At least 81 construction workers are missing after an unfinished high-rise building collapsed hundreds of miles away in Bangkok. There have been reports of roads buckling in the capital of Naypyidaw, and the country's military government has declared a state of emergency in 6 regions. The earthquake struck near Mandalay, which has a population of around 1.5 million people. A second quake struck 12 minutes after the first. Aid agencies are now scrambling to assess the humanitarian needs in Myanmar and work out how to respond.
There have already been several times what is called external management, interim administration.
Vladimir Putin has suggested that Ukraine should temporarily be placed under UN control to elect what he called a more competent government. It is the latest attempt by the Russian president to challenge the legitimacy of the Kyiv government. Ukraine accused Putin of proposing crazy ideas to delay further movements towards a peace deal, being championed by US President Donald Trump. The White House insisted Ukraine's governance would be decided by its constitution and people.
Today, my cabinet colleagues and I met to discuss Canada's response to the latest developments in the trade crisis.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has said that Canada's old relationship with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperation, is over. Speaking to reporters in Ottawa after a cabinet meeting, Mr. Carney said Canadians must fundamentally reimagine our economy in the face of US President Donald Trump's tariffs. He said Canada would respond with retaliatory tariffs that will have maximum impact on the US.
President Trump again imposed unjustified tariffs on our nation in violation of our existing trade agreements. We will respond forcefully. Nothing is off the table to defend our workers and our country. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperation, is over.
Meanwhile, US Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha are visiting the US Bidufik space base on Greenland's northwestern coast. Because of its location at the top of the world, it supports missile warning, missile defense and space surveillance missions. The trip has been scaled back from original plans to tour the island more widely after a row with the governments of Greenland and Denmark over a lack of invitation. US President Donald Trump has repeatedly threatened to take over the Danish semi-autonomous territory. Both Greenland and Denmark's governments have rejected the calls, and an opinion survey from January suggests a vast majority of Greenlanders are against the idea too. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has appointed a new army chief ahead of planned protests called by a group of war veterans who want to force the president to resign. Emmanuel Matutu takes over with immediate effect. President Mnangagwa has faced calls from his former supporters to step down, citing mismanagement and corruption. And King Charles has been seen in public for the first time since he went to hospital after experiencing temporary side effects from his cancer treatment. He left his London residence Clarence House on Friday to spend the weekend at his Highgrove estate in Gloucestershire. He cancelled a trip to Birmingham on medical advice after spending a short period of time in hospital on Thursday. The palace has not provided details on what the recent side effects were. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.